Well, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? All right, that's 10 of you. How are the rest of you doing? Are you all right? Good? We're really glad that you are here. If you're watching online from wherever you are around the world, thank you so much for being here. My name is Bill. I'm one of the pastors here. And really, we are so glad that you are here with us on this great Sunday morning. And we have been in a series taken from Andy Stanley with permission. If you've not ever been introduced to Andy Stanley, you can go online and catch up. A fantastic communicator and pastor out of the States. But we've been in this series entitled Breathing Room, because we've been learning in this series that there are times in our life where we all feel like a chicken running around with its head cut off, right? If you don't know what that is, go to a farm, ask a farmer. Anyway, it's frantic because we're disconnected from the source. And so we've learned that in week number 1, we learned that in order to reclaim breathing room, something we all need, we first need to be still and know who God really is, that He is the source of all things, and we need to be reconnected to Him. Then in week number 2, we learned that all of us have limited time, right? There's only so much time in a day, and so we must limit what we do with that time. We talked a little bit about time management. Then last week, we talked about money, and we learned that if we don't learn to manage our money, money will manage us, and money is a terrible boss. It'll bankrupt you. And so we learn to put our trust rather in God, who navigates that with us. And today, we're going to conclude this series by talking about relationships. And what we're going to learn today is that in relationships, we have to make choices. And so we better learn how to choose wisely. We're going to learn that you're going to have to make a choice at some point, and so you better learn to choose wisely. So I'm going to use an analogy today that many of you have seen before, but I think it's really good because I've learned something about relationships. Relationships aren't perfect. Okay, yeah, there. True that. Okay, I know what Hollywood says, and I know what the romance novels say, but it's not true. Every relationship has edges. Every relationship has some sharp corners. Yes, it's true, there's a lot of beauty in every relationship, but you have to learn to navigate them. And I have learned that every new relationship brings new challenges. And as you get older, they get more complicated and more complex. Like when I was single, I could kind of do whatever I wanted, but once you start getting into relationships, whether they're friendships or marriage, you start realizing, wow, I have got some responsibility here. So I can remember when I was first married, and, I was navigating, my new life as a married man, and Carly and I were working through some of the exciting challenges of getting along, and how does that all work, and who gets to squeeze the toothpaste where, those kind of really life important issues. And then on top of that, I got a job at a church. I was a pastor, and I thought, pastors only worked half a day a week, and I thought that would be a great job until I realized, no, actually, there's a lot of work, and you have a lot of people with a lot of expectations. People want you to go to this meeting, and they want you to start this group, and they want you to be at that hospital, and every funeral, and every wedding, and there was a lot of demands. And so I was trying to navigate that, and then we had kids, and that was a whole other ball of wax. I mean, my first diaper. Why is it green? Anyway, that's a whole other story for you new dads. Just, you'll enjoy that in a moment. But I was trying to navigate it, and in my own strength, here's what was happening. I was trying to balance all of these relationships, and I tried really hard, right? Like I read the self-help books and how to be a better dad, and I went to the special classes for breathing when your wife is going to give birth, and I really tried, but I couldn't seem to figure out how to get all of these things to balance. Like I meant it. I worked really hard at it. If I worked really hard, maybe. No, I can't. And so I kind of came to this point where I was starting to wonder what was wrong with me. I started wondering, okay, everyone else seems to be navigating. Why can't I? Why is this so hard? Why do I feel like I'm dropping the ball, not living up to expectations? I feel like I'm failing those people around me that I care about deeply. And so maybe you're here today, And you kind of feel like that. Maybe you're here today and you've tried to navigate relationships and it's really hard and you're just overwhelmed today and you're trying to balance it all. You really are. You're a good person. You want to do the right thing. You want to honor the relationships you're in. But it just seems they keep falling apart and crumbling around you. Maybe you're here today and it's completely shattered around you. So what do? Is there hope? Is there a better way? The good news is I believe that there is. And the good news is that today I want to just share with you some things that I've learned. I'm by no means an expert, okay? I don't have it all figured out. My wife and I still disagree on things, once in a while. I just learned to say yes, dear. And not really. And I still, my kids and I have to navigate some stuff and friendships and all that, and we're working it all out. But I have learned how to keep my sanity in the midst of lots of expectations and frustrations. And the reality is that no matter how good the person you're in a relationship with is, they're not perfect. And you can't put all of your trust in them because they weren't meant to carry that weight. And so you will be disappointed if you expect them to be the answer to all of your problems. But there is an answer. And we're going to find that together today. If you have your Bibles, you can turn with me to the book of Psalms. If you don't have your Bible today, that's all right. It will be on the screen behind me. And again, I want to remind you that you can download the YouVersion app on your mobile device. One of the greatest aspects of the YouVersion app is that you can actually use an auxiliary cord in your car and it will actually read the chapters to you. So when you're stuck in traffic, instead of swearing, read the Bible. Okay, that was just total free advice, just totally free advice. But we're in the book of Psalms, and the book of Psalms literally translates into the book of songs. So a bunch of artists got together, and they played their harps and their lyres, and they wove flowers into each other's hair. And no, they didn't really. I just thought that was fun. Anyway, they wrote a bunch of songs, and these are songs about real life. And one of the most prolific authors or writers of the songs in the book of Psalms was a guy by the name of David. Now, David understood complicated relationships. If you've ever read the story of the life of David, you'll know that he was not an expert in this area. He struggled a lot. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One of them could have been the fact that he had 8 wives. Those are just the ones named. He had concubines as well. And so you think it's difficult navigating with one other person, try 9. And so he had many wives, and he had lots of kids. And these kids were not always nice. They were actually rotten, some of them. One of them turned on him and started a civil war against his own dad. It was messy. And he had all these expectations. He wasn't just a normal guy. He was a king. So he had all these people, probably telling him how he should rule the kingdom, what he should do, how that choice was a mistake. This is what you should have done. You shouldn't have done that. He probably felt like he let people down. He's trying to hold a nation together that's just born. It's a new nation. And so I think if anyone has something to say about how we can navigate, it's King David. And so in Psalm 86, in verse 11, we read these words, and he says, "Teach me your way, Lord, that I may rely on your faithfulness." I like that because I think sometimes it's easy just to whip past the words and not really let them sink in. What he's saying is, you're the only one who is faithful. I've had friends let me down, he's saying. I've had those closest to me betray me. I've trusted people and they've failed me. But you've never failed me. I need to rely on your faithfulness. Give me an undivided heart that I might fear your name. This word fear isn't like fear of Jaws and dark water. Oh, that's terrifying. This is a fear meaning respect. Teach me to respect you. I will praise you, Lord my God, with all my heart. I will glorify your name forever, for great is your love toward me. You have delivered me from the depths, from the realm of the dead. A couple of really interesting words here in the original Hebrew. The first one is the word teach. If you were to translate it straight across into English, it would literally say, "Shoot me like an arrow, your ways, O Lord," which doesn't translate very well, so we've just used the English word teach. So what was David saying? David was saying, just like an arrow in the hands of an archer, a good archer, who puts it in his bow and shoots at a target, hits it every time. So in the same way, God, if I would allow myself to be surrendered to your plan for my life, you, like a good archer, know the way I was designed to live. You know the way I was supposed to function, and so you promise that if I trust you, I'll hit the target. It's interesting that one of the words for sin literally translates miss the target. It means that we were designed to do certain things, to work a certain way, to function, to go in a certain direction. But like a crooked arrow, we miss the mark every time. And so he's saying, listen, the first thing I need to learn is to trust your faithfulness, to put my life in your hands. And then he says, because if I don't, you won't be able to save me or rescue me from the depths or the realm of the dead. This word literally is the word Sheol. In Hebrew, this was a place of death and destruction. What he's saying is, if I don't trust you, I might wake up one day and realize that death is all around me. That there are consequences when I go my own way, when I try to balance my own life, when I try to figure it all out, when I keep adding and without any wisdom. The result is death. And so, is there a better way? The first thing that he asks God is, give me an undivided heart. Here's the problem with us. When we can't stack the rocks, we hand our responsibility over to somebody else. Here's what it looks like. We know that in order to be a good husband or a good wife, a good friend, a good father, a good mother, whatever, we know that we have certain responsibilities, but we have other things that distract us. And so we ask those closest to us, those who we love, to hold the rock of our responsibility. And we excuse it. We say, I know we said we were going to do this tonight, but work called, and I just need to work a little bit later. I know, honey, I know. Could you just hold this rock just for a minute? I know I promised I'd be at your ballet recital, sweetie. I knew it, but there's this really pressing thing, this meeting I've got to get to, and so could you just hold it just for a minute? I know I promised I'd be there. I knew we were going to have coffee this weekend. We're great friends, but there's this other thing, and it's just come up, and I'm sorry. Can you just hold this rock for a minute? And because they love you, they will. Because they love you, they'll go, it's okay, Dad. And even though everything inside of them just wants you to be there, they go, it's okay, I understand, even though they don't. Your spouse will say, yeah, it's okay. I know this is really important to you, and you've made promises. We make promises, right? It's going to get better. It's going to get better. I promise this won't happen again. And we keep promising for days and for weeks and for months and for years. And the problem is that arms grow tired of holding your rock. Because it's your responsibility. And no matter how many times you promise that it's going to get better, it doesn't get better. And every once in a while you come along and you try to feel better about yourself. You go, how's it going? How's that rock holding? Are you okay? Yeah, you're doing great, man. You're a champ. You're an all-star. Oh, man, I appreciate this so much. But after time, the rock gets too heavy, and the arms can't hold it anymore, and the rock drops. The interesting thing about this is when it happens, people always act so surprised. I didn't see this coming. I just asked to pass me the salt, and all of a sudden she broke into tears. I don't get it. It was just salt. I don't get it. I just had to work a little bit of overtime, and she hasn't talked to me in 6 weeks. I don't get it. I asked my son if he'd go with me to the game, and he said, sorry, Dad, I'm too busy. I don't get it. What's wrong with the kid? Sometimes it's irreparable. Sometimes it's the place of the dead. The word in English that we use to translate Sheol is hell. And for some of you in this room, you're literally experiencing hell on earth because you gave your rock of responsibility to someone else to hold, and they're just not willing to hold it anymore. So the psalmist David says, give me an undivided heart. Give me a heart that knows where it should be invested. Give me a heart that understands. Teach me your way, O Lord. What do you do when you can't hold it all together? What do you do when you want to foster all these relationships, but everyone is broken? Well, the good news is there's an answer. And the answer is, teach me your way, O Lord. Now, the amazing thing about you, whether you knew it or not, is that you were created in the image of God. And because you were created in the image of God, you were created actually with limitations and capacities. I know you don't like to know that about yourself, but you were. I was too. We only have so much. We only have so much time, so much energy, so much resource, so much ability to relate in a deep and meaningful way. And Jesus understands this. He knew that we would lose our way and we would forget what was most important. He knew that we would live in a world with all kinds of pressures and expectations, and so we would justify it by, there's just so many things to do. I just have to do it all. If I don't do this, my boss is going to fire me. If I don't do this, they're never going to invite me to that again. If I don't do this, people are going to be frustrated with me. And so Jesus steps in and he says, I get it. So let me help you. I'll make it really simple. You want to know what the greatest thing you can do with your life is? You really want to know? Here it is. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So, in order to love God, you need to first understand the way He has made you. Here's what I've learned about my priorities when it comes to relationships. I must make Him first in every decision I make. Now, if you're here and this is kind of a new language for you and you're not sure about it, let me just explain it to you this way. I'm not strong enough, I'm not smart enough, and I'm not good enough on my own to make my relationships work. I like to believe I am. I think I'm pretty smart. I think, I'm a pretty nice guy. I think so. I think I'm funny a little bit, Thank you. Thank you. But people still don't like me. My wife still gets upset with me. My kids still talk back to me. What is that? It's me. So when I learn to put God first, He begins to direct the way I think about things and the way I speak about things. And I can tell you, when I don't put Him first, if I don't start my day reflecting and thinking and asking Him for help, I can tell you the day's not going to go well. Because I'm going to go off on my own trying to balance rocks without His corrective instruction that holds all things together. And so I've learned that I need to trust Him first. See, because if I don't do that, here's what's going to happen. Other things are going to take the place of the important things. If the relationships are the important things, then sand is like the distractions in my life. It's that call, right? Hey, I just need you for 15 minutes, and it turns into 2 hours. I'm just going to go out to the shop. I'll just be back in 5 minutes. It turns into 3 hours. And see, I know I said I would do that, but you don't know, this just happened. And so we allow the immediate, the emergencies of life to take priority. That was a bad one. And then we allow the day-to-day operations of life, just the things that you need to survive. Like you got to go to work and you got to do those things, and we let those take priority next. And so we fill our life with those things. And then finally, we go, oh yeah, right, I've got a family. Oh yeah, wait a minute, I have kids, okay. I got to try to fit those in. I got my friends, my friendships, and so we try to fit them in, but the problem is, there's no room left. So is there a better way? Yeah, there is. Just like an air traffic controller. The air traffic controller is aware of all the planes in the air. He's just really focused on the one that's about to land. He knows what the priority is. In the same way, he says, teach me your ways. Teach me to prioritize my life. And so by doing this, we reorder the way we think about things. And we establish our priorities first. Here's the reality. Do you know what your most important relationships are? And are you spending most of your time fostering them? Because if you don't know what they are, I'll tell you, this world will demand it of you. Every distraction will come your way. You will become a slave to everyone else's expectation, everyone else's whim, everyone else's desire of what you should and shouldn't do. I know this firsthand. Because I have all kinds of people who think I should be doing certain things differently, better, adding things, subtracting things. And so I've just learned to put my priorities right. And so I've learned to put God first. And then I've learned, as much as I love you, my family is second. My family is second. So that requires me to do some funny things. You may not understand it, and that's okay. I'm ADHD, so I have to live by my calendar. So I actually schedule my family into my calendar. And the reason I do that is because then when you call and say, hey, I have an emergency, I need you to do this, I need you to do that, I can say, hey, I'm really sorry, I'd love to do it, but I have an appointment. And you say, well, it's just time with your kids, you can forego that. No. That's my appointment with them. And they take my priority. Because of it, I also have chosen to coach volleyball. You may be shocked to find that some days I'll leave work here at 3 o'clock to go coach volleyball. And you say, well, I pay you to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got to do whatever I ask you to do. Actually, no, I don't. You say, well, how do you make up your time? Well, besides the fact that it's none of your business, I sometimes come to work at 7 in the morning, and sometimes I work till 10 o'clock at night. It's just I've made that my priority. When my kids were little, I said, I'm never going to miss a single recital if I can help it. I'm not going to miss a single event if I can help it. Now, there are times, and they understand, but it's uncommon. I made this decision. You say, yeah, but if I do that, I won't get the raise. Okay, keep your raise. Is it worth your family? Right? Well, I'll never get another job. What kind of God do you serve? My God says he'll take care of me. So I started establishing my priorities, and then I guard them. And then I have some friends. I have to pay them a lot, but they're my friends. And then I have, other I love my job. I love this job. To be honest with you, I have to pinch myself every once in a while to think, I get to do this. This is awesome. I love St. Catharines. I love the Niagara region. I love you. I love what I do. So that's a priority. And I don't let anything. So when other opportunities come, maybe to speak somewhere else or whatever, and I can't because I'm here, I just say no. Here's the awesome thing. Once I get my priorities straight, then when the other tasks come, I have a filter so I can learn. If it fits, fantastic. If it doesn't, I've learned this really cool 2-letter word. No! I know. Thank you. Thank you. You say, yeah, but they'll get mad at me. Yes, they will. And they do. Like if you call, and as much as I love you, if you called and said, can I have an appointment with Bill? You might have to wait 3 weeks. And you get a half hour. You're like, well, that's not very loving. Actually, it's the most loving thing I could do for you. Because if I let you take up all my time, how am I going to help the other person who needs half an hour? And the amazing thing about the half-hour slot is it's amazing how concise you can be if you know you only have half an hour. You think I talk fast. You should hear people telling me their problems. Then, if I get these priorities right, then there are distractions in life. There are emergencies that come up. Yes, your child is going to once in a while be in an emergency and you're going to have to go help them in the hospital. Yes, there are going to be times when you get that phone call that you didn't want. But it doesn't stress you out because you've got your priorities straight. So there's still room for those as well. And you still have breathing room. You say, I can't get it all done. Then you're either doing the wrong things or you're not doing them in the right order. Do you know that Jesus said no a lot? Okay, he had this friend, you may have heard of him, his name was Peter. They're like best friends, and one day Jesus says, I'm going to die, and Peter says, no, you're not. And Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. That's a pretty strong no. Love you too, Jesus. There's another time, one of his best friends, Lazarus, is dying. He's really sick. And so his sisters, Mary and Martha, send a message to Jesus and say, you got to come right now. It's an emergency. He's going to die. And Jesus doesn't come because he's doing other things. And Lazarus dies. And Mary and Martha meet him and say, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you come? Don't you love us? Don't you care? And Jesus says, just watch what I'm about to do. He raises Lazarus from the dead. It's not ungodly to say no. As a matter of fact, it might be the most godly thing you can do when you get your priorities straight. So as much as I love you, you will never take the place of my family. If I have an appointment with them, I keep my appointment with them. Because God is showing me how to direct my steps. He is my container. He is my priority. And once I figured this out, there was always time to do all the things that I needed to do. And there always were people who didn't like me, but there were people who didn't like me before too, so it didn't really matter. And I always was going to get told, you're failing me, you're letting me down, you're not meeting my expectations, you're not a good this, you're not a good that. But they were saying that before too. So now I live with peace, knowing that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and saying no to everything else. And so if you're here, I just have a couple questions. Do you know what the big rocks are? Maybe I should actually ask the first question. Are you allowing God to direct your life? Are you asking him every day, what should I be doing? What's the wise thing to do? God, teach me your ways so that I can be like an arrow in the hand of a master archer who shoots and hits the target every time. I want my life to matter. I want my life to count. And I know the only way it will is if you direct me. And then show me how to fit everything else. Because you're going to have to choose. So choose wisely. Father, I thank you for this opportunity to just talk. And I know that in my life, I'm still learning what it means to really be the type of person you need me to be. And I love my family, and I love my friends, and I love this church. But I've learned that when I love you first, it puts all those other things in their proper order. God, it allows me to say yes to the right things and no to a lot of the wrong things. And God, you know, because we've had this talk before, how sometimes it's hard for me because I was wired to be a people pleaser. But you've been teaching me, God, that the only person that I need to please is you, and you're already pleased with me. And if I follow in your way, you're going to lead me in a way that brings life and not death. So I just pray that you'd help me to learn to navigate. If it means I need to look through my calendar again, if it means I need to stop and reflect, if it means I need to just ask the question, what are the big rocks? What do I need to be spending my time on? Before I know what to say no to, I need to know what I'm saying yes to. And may the things I say yes to only be those things that honor you and the purpose you have crafted for my life alone. Help me in the times when others' expectations get muddied with mine. They try to keep me from seeing clearly. God, help me to see what you want for me. My prayer is for those in this place who maybe the relationships have fallen and broken apart. I pray that just like Lazarus, you can bring dead things back to life. I pray that you'd begin to resurrect as people begin to put their priorities back in the right place, their focus and their attention. God, I pray that you'd bring those things back to life. And God, I just pray that we would be people who follow you in your way, so that others can see that it's possible to live in this world with peace and hope and joy, with breathing room. So I ask this because you are good. Amen. And so if you're here today and you're like, yeah, I need this. I need to know more. I need to figure out how to do this. Or maybe you're here and you don't know what it means to follow Jesus or to follow God. We'd love to help you. If you're watching online, just interact with the online pastor. If you're here today, you can just take the connection card that's in the seat in front of you. You can come to the front. There will be people here who would love to pray with you. They'd love to pray with you about anything in your life, any need that you have. There's power in prayer. Don't miss that opportunity. Or if you're in a rush today, we get that. You can drop it off in one of the 4 boxes on your way out, and someone will follow up. You can just write a comment or check a box, and we'll follow up with you. Or if you want to meet someone in person, just go outside these doors and meet someone at Central Connect, the great big blue wall. You can't miss it, and someone will meet you there. But just know today that God designed you to experience an abundant life, a life full of joy and hope, a life with breathing room. God did not design you to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. Know today that He's willing, if you'll allow Him, to establish new parameters and boundaries so that you can make the first things first, the right things right, and you can learn what it means to say no to everything else. And in saying no to everything else, you avoid the place of the dead, the place of death. So may you experience life. May you experience life again in that relationship that you thought was dead. May you experience life again in that schedule that has become out of control. May you experience life again in your mind and in your body and in your heart as you trust God with everything and put Him first. And so I bless you with the reality and the truth that He's willing to do it for you if you let Him. So be blessed. In the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. Amen.